Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to episode 355 of Picks and Ponies on the HHH Racing Podcast Network. I'm your host, Pete Visco, filling in again for Howard Kravitz, who's, somewhere in France, maybe chewing on some bread, checking out some burlesque. Who knows what he's doing, losing money at the OTB. We're not really sure. Tonight, we have a pretty jam-packed show, so we're going to try and zip through some things. First, we got Jay Briscione from Atlantic 6 Racing, the owners of Bookham Dano, to come and talk about the fantastic win in the Woody Stevens this past weekend. Then myself and my co-host are going to talk through the late pick 5 at Monmouth with 4 stakes races, 3 graded, 1 listed. And then stay on after that because Emily Gullickson is going to be joining us to talk through the late pick 4 on Saturday at Hawthorne. So again, we're jam-packed start to finish. So let me get through some of the basic stuff first. On the bottom of the screen, on our YouTube channel, definitely subscribe. We want to get as many subscribers as possible. Hit that like button if you like our show. Hit the like button. Lets YouTube know that we're a podcast you enjoy. And hit that little alert bell because that'll tell you when a new show pops up in case there's one that's off schedule that you don't want to miss. For our audio listeners, please, same thing. Listen, subscribe, review, whether you use Spotify, Apple Podcast, Anchor, or wherever you get your podcasts. Our Twitter feed. So our Twitter feed for the show is at @HKravitz, and we're on Instagram at instagram.com/HHH Racing Podcast. And then our hosts usually have our own personal Twitter handles, so please give us a follow as well. Finally, our hhhracingpodcast.com is our website. Check it out. There's everything from power pick examples. We have photos, so you could see photos of Howard's trip going on right now. Excuse me. I've been updating them pretty much daily. We have articles from Paul. We have all kinds of things. If you want to know more about us or the show in general, or just check out some things, definitely check out the website. And then finally, our power picks. $15.99 a month, basically $4 a week. You get 2 tracks, 2 feature tracks, plus Hawthorne every week while they're all in session. At the bottom of the video player, there's a link to Patreon. That's where you subscribe. Also, if you go to our website, we have a Power Picks page. You can, like I said, you can see an example. And if you want to subscribe, there's a link on there as well. So let's not waste any more time. First, I'm going to bring on my 2 co-hosts for tonight. First, the normal one that you see all the time and you know very well from the Saratoga Special, Paul Halloran. What's up, Paul?
Hello, Pete.
And then a special guest co-host, owner, handicapper, but most important, related to me, my cousin, Nick Verdereese. What's happening, my man?
Hey, good. How are you?
Not too bad.
Good to be on.
Paul, yeah, it's good to have you. Well, I just for the listeners, he was bitching at me a bunch, saying you never talk Monmouth except Haskell. I said we're talking Monmouth this week. Why don't you come on and show us your stuff? Let's see what you know.
That'll teach them, Pete. Oh,
yeah. We teach them the hard way around here, Paul. When real quick, Nick, before we go to our special guest, you got your horse is ready to debut soon. Why don't you give us a little quick background about your horse in case anybody in the chat wants to follow and maybe drop a couple bucks on him when he finally comes back.
Sure. So we'll be having our 3-year-old debut. We're shooting for June 30th. Non-winners of 1, optional claiming. We won second time out maiden special, Jersey bred at Monmouth. Love the Jersey breds. So it's nice to hear that we got a owner of basically our best Jersey bred 3-year-old out there. So it's great. Can't wait to talk to him as well. And we got a nice Jersey bred going today in one of the stakes races.
Yes, we do. What's the name of the horse? You forgot to. You did everything and didn't mention the name. I mean, I know it.
Well, I don't want everyone to bet it. And then
that's true. It's going to be 1 to 5 now.
Optical Bijou.
Yes.
So I got involved. A friend of a friend owned some horses, bred some horses. And he got me involved in this horse. We also have another 2-year-old that I have a small piece of. And then we just bred a mare to Salamini.
Oh, nice.
We're in
That was a
full
good horse.
Salamini right now. And we're actually on Brightview Farms, which is, I think, the same farm that that Bookham Dano's mare was from as well.
Oh, well, we'll talk about that.
That is correct.
Well, let's bring on. So, Paul, why don't you, since you were the one who made all this happen, why don't you give the beautiful announcement of who our special guest is and give him a little sweet intro for his first time on the show?
Well, we wanted to stick with the Jersey theme tonight, Pete. We're talking Monmouth. We got 2 Jersey guys on the show and 1 Boston guy. And, of course, the Boston guys and Jersey guys have always been kindred spirits. We're equally miserable at times.
Yes.
But there were a lot of good stories out of Saratoga this weekend, Pete. I think, Howard, we recapped them on Monday night. But there was not a better story than this one. So Bookham Dano is a New Jersey bred, as Nick intimated. Salamini, by the way, stands at McMahon of Saratoga, Nick, with Bucaro.
Yes.
And Bookham Dano was coming off a tough second by a head last jump in the Saudi Derby. And they took a shot in the Woody Stevens. And it was just a command performance. And you'll see in the form, Atlantic 6 Racing, which is literally 6 guys all from the Jersey Shore. And the leader of the syndicate, I had a chance to talk to him last Thursday when I was getting ready to preview the race for the Saratoga Special. And I always joke with people, Pete, at the end of the conversation, I say, well, you want to be talking to me after the race.
Yeah, not before.
And even though I wasn't covering that particular race, of course, I did make a point to go down and congratulate him because it was just a great story. So without further ado, from Atlantic 6 Racing, Jay Brison. Jay, how are you?
Hey, oh, he's on mute already. What? Come on, man. It's, that's Paul's job to do that. Paul usually does that right from the jump.
How about now? Good?
Now you're perfect.
You sound great.
Well, this is my first podcast, so I'm happy to be on.
Oh, well, we're welcome to have you. We're glad.
We're happy to have you, Jay. Well deserved. If you guys come close, I know you haven't hit the ground yet, but are you on your way back down to the ground after last night?
I do have my voice back, so that's a good thing. But no, we really haven't hit the ground yet. In fact, Nick, I just I called Christine Conley tonight to congratulate her. She's Brightview Farms, obviously, and the co-breeder of Bookham Dano, and she was ecstatic also. I think everybody involved, it's just like a dream come true.
So we should start there, Jay. You guys, as we talked about last week, this was a private purchase as a yearling off of Brightview Farm. Could you tell our viewers a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we had we're always looking for Jersey breds, and quite honestly, in this case, we were hoping we'd get a conditioned allowance race, allowance horse, who we started back in the business about 6 years ago, and we had a Jersey bred that went through his conditions. We made a little money, and we were looking for another horse. We had one yearling New York bred by Cloud Computing, and he was in Virginia getting Virginia certified, and I got to know Chris Gracie, who's had the farm and is a bloodstock agent. I said, by the way, do you have any New Jersey breds? He goes, yeah, I probably have the biggest selection of New Jersey breds getting ready to go into the Timonium sale. I think this was August. I didn't know I didn't know Bucaro. I kind of think I know almost everybody, but he said, well, this is one I like. And I said, who's he by? And he said, Bucaro. And I said, who's that? And now I know everything.
Now you know.
Bucaro. So there were about 4 of them. And this is the one we decided to go with, and we made a private purchase. So he's Virginia certified, and then he went to Randy Rentz, who breaks all of our 2-year-olds in South Carolina. And then he came up about probably July of his 2-year-old year. And he didn't really miss a beat through, probably late December when he was broke to July. When you buy Jersey breds, I'm sure Nick knows, you have a little window, and not much can go wrong because the meet goes from basically May to the end of August. So shins, temperatures, anything that can get in the way usually does. And actually, he didn't miss a beat. And we ran him first time, and we liked him. He didn't do anything wrong, but he never showed what, everybody always probably tells you, well, we knew from the time he was in the field that he could. Well, we knew he was good, but we still thinking, okay, maybe we'll break his maiden here, and next year we get through conditions kind of thing. And the rest is kind of history, I would say.
Come on, Jay.
Very
New
good
Jersey
mind.
You weren't thinking Saudi and grade 1 to Sarasota? Come on, what are you talking about?
I mean, and I've seen this now. I've seen a couple of the sires, foals. Very good mind. Knock on wood, sound. We gelded him early on, and most of the 2-year-olds we didn't expect, to have this, obviously, and I think Derek even says if he was a colt, he'd be a handful. But they can run. I mean, his percentage in the money of horses getting to races is very, very high. A couple of the guys went to see him at, I think it's McMahon, or I don't know how you pronounce it, but they were very gracious, and the breeder set us up to go see him that morning of the race.
Well, Joe McMahon was a happy guy in the winner's circle, Jay.
I believe him and his son were there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that $7,500 fee on Bucero will be that next year. But obviously, the 9.5 length win right out of the chute in the Jersey bred maiden race tells you, you got something. You win you win another. Derek takes him to New York in his 2-year-old year, has a win in a second. But what I want to talk about is after that race in New York, he mapped out a plan for this year. And, as I wrote about in my preview for the special, he mapped out a plan that included the Derby. It just wasn't the Kentucky Derby. We talked about it, but share with our, just the fact that he came to you guys and said, hey, instead of try to go to Kentucky, I want to take the horse to Saudi Arabia.
So you know what? We never, when I got to know who the sire was, Mark Rubenstein, who's one of the partners, we both were around the track, as I'm not gonna say kid. Well, I probably could say kids, but many, many years ago, working in all facets of the backside. So we got to know horses and followed them. Once you get the bug, you got the bug, and we both had it. So the Breeders' Cup in the fall, there was a lot of talk about that, but we never really considered that because he had never run on the grass. And then the Derby, the half sister had done very well sprinting, Girl Trouble. She was by Fast Anna, so we had followed her. And when they started to go along, her numbers kind of didn't go any further, didn't change, and probably, started to get worse. So different kind of horses, physically, but at the same time, the sire, I'm sure the sire can have a 2-turn horse, but, basically his success was at, grass sprint. So just logic, let's stay with, why change it if it's not broke? And yeah, there was some talk about, hey, what about the Derby? But we kind of shut that down, pretty quickly, because all of us have seen horses that go on the Derby trail but don't belong there, and you never hear from them again. So, it would have been a shame if we had, done that and wound up not getting where we are now. So, there's nothing wrong with what he's doing. He's doing it very well. He's 5 for 7. I think could very well be 6 for 7. He's run at 5 different tracks and won on 4 of them. So he's a great shipper. He's a great eater. And knock on wood, he's been sound. So we're just unbelievably fortunate. And the whole Saudi Arabia trip was Derek's idea. I guess he had been talking to them around, I would say around Christmas time or December. And he said, well, they have a new race out there. It's a 1-turn mile. What would you think? And I started looking it up, and I'm like, I don't see any new race out here in Saudi Arabia. And it wound up being obviously the Saudi Derby. And it just progressed from there. He wanted to run him in the Pasco to give him a race. The person that not sounding like, we're too good for that, but the purse to a non-Florida bred was, I think, $50,000. And he trained this horse for 3 races as good as anybody could train a horse. I mean, he won the Pasco by 12. He got beat by Forever Young and the last Bob. And then he probably beat the best 3-year-old sprinters, in the country right now. Vlahos, I was kind of happy that he scratched. I was a little nervous about him, but I knew there was a ton of speed in this race, and he was probably the only one I thought might be able to get away, and other people take back. But at the same time, you're not going to go much faster than 43, which is, what they went. And the track was speed favoring all day, and he does like to run at horses, and it set up perfectly for him, I thought.
Well, Pete, you picked Book of Dano on the show last Thursday night. So.
I did. That was about one of the few good opinions I had.
I had National Treasure too that day. So he was in Saudi.
Mario, so no good.
Yeah, no, he was in Saudi, and Derek had said, if you're going to spend a lot of money for a horse, that's what you want it to look like. He was training great out there, and he looked very good here, and he ran great.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Jay. So when you see in Saudi, you see Forever Young just barely nip Book of Dano, and then you see what Forever Young comes back to do in Dubai and comes back to do in the Kentucky Derby. Are you thinking, oh my God, our horse might even be even more special than we thought because of what Forever Young did subsequently?
Without a doubt. And when we were out there, all the talk was Forever Young. Like he was the, I don't know if there's wise guys in Saudi Arabia like there are here, but he was kind of the wise guy horse. And they told us, if you can get a future book on him, a bet, go ahead and do it. And I did. I only got 12-1, and I didn't cash it, obviously. But I think my only success on a future was Thunder Gulch, and he paid more the day of the race than he did in my futures, which
I'm not sure I've ever cashed one, so don't feel so bad. Our show hasn't been the luckiest.
When we saw Forever Young do what he did, and then go to, you got to give him a ton of credit. He shipped from Japan to Saudi Arabia to Dubai to Kentucky without missing a beat. And he probably was the best horse in the race. If he's on the outside, I think he wins the race probably. So yeah, that flattered us, number one.
Yeah.
And, thinking, we stay in our wheelhouse and who's gonna, we're gonna be right there. And meanwhile, I've been getting the Thorograph, sheets, and he's got a great pattern. I'm not great at Thorograph, but I can find my way through it, and I have some pretty good people that advise me. I guess his pattern is very good. He's never regressed. He ran 3 4s last year. He came back with a 3, I think, in Tampa, and now he's run 2 paired 1s in the last 2 races. So, so we're thinking, they're going to have to run to beat us, but, the water gets a lot deeper, and, you're in Saratoga, you're in a grade 1. We've never run a horse in Saratoga. Probably on my bucket list, can I start a horse in Saratoga, and can we win a race? Not thinking it was going to be a grade 1 on Belmont Day, but, just incredibly exciting storybook kind of, sometimes I still wake up and think, maybe the dreams are reality and the reality are the dreams. And this didn't really happen, but that's where we're at. And it's incredible. You all know the highs are high in this business and the lows are low. And when you're high, you better enjoy them.
Yeah, ride it.
We talked Monday night, Jay, just about. I mean, to win on Belmont Day, no matter where the race, obviously would have been special. But I tried to get across Monday night just how electric that place was last Saturday, and maybe you can talk about it. From the similar view when you were down at the Winner's Circle and walking about the building. I've been going there a long time, and I was not there for the Faro race. So, but other than that, the electricity of that day, to not only to win a race on Belmont Day, but to win it up there, had to be unbelievable.
Yeah, you and me both. So we've been going to the Belmont with a group of friends, some in the horse, for probably the last 25 years. So I've seen 2 Triple Crowns, and we've been going to Saratoga also. I've never seen. We were at the Travers last year. I've never seen Saratoga that crowded, and the kind of vibe that it was extremely exciting. Like Belmont, in the paddock area and stuff, you got a lot of young kids that are just there kind of to party, and I'm sure there were here, but it seemed like, there were a lot more horse people, a lot more people that were really into horses. So it was, it's great to see, a track. That track is special to start with, but to see it on a day like that, and they did there's always issues when you have 50,000 people in a building that's probably close to 150 years old, right? But they did a wonderful job, and New York has been like incredible to us, whether it be at Aqueduct or here, and that's kind of a testament to them to pull this off. As good as it is, I said to these guys, I said, they say next year is going to be the next year, but I'm not so sure they're going to rush back in whatever 27 or so. They might try to keep it there for 3 years.
Those handle numbers make you want to stick around for a little bit.
Yeah, no, and it was electric. I have to say, everywhere you went, it was electric, and we were right at the finish line. We were in the porch. We had a group of about 12 people, and we were screaming and Wire, please come quickly, at the end there. So,
well, I suspect there's a chance, Jay, we're going to see you guys back at Saratoga on Travers Day for the Allen Jerkins.
I think, right now, and the one thing I've learned about Derek is, he likes, and we've been together probably now 6 years or so, never with a horse of this quality. So in the last 2 years, I think he likes to train to a race. And, like I said, the last 3 have been, executed to the T. Now, is that going to happen? Who knows in this business? But right now, he's good. I think that's where we're pointed. There's the Amsterdam in the middle, but I don't think, just my thinking, he doesn't want 3. He did this off a 3-month layoff, so you would have thought it's going to take a lot out of him. He bounced out of that pretty good, but you don't always know. You don't always know the first couple of days or so. So we'll see how he does. I think he was talking, maybe something in the middle, not as difficult, just to give him. I think the timing might work out if it was something at Monmouth Park. I live 2 minutes away from Monmouth. I've lived there all my life. That's kind of our home track. So that would be fine, if it all works out.
Well, Nick, you have a 3-year-old New Jersey bred. We could maybe set up a match race.
No, thanks.
Nick's
prepping. We might
Nick's
need
horse
you
is
if you
prepping
run
for the
there.
hassle,
We might
man.
need some people to help us get the race to go.
There you go, Nick.
Where are you at, Jay? Me and Nick were going to ask, because Nick, how close are you to Monmouth, Nick? What does it take you?
I live in Freehold Township, so
Freehold. So I'm in Oceanport, right?
Okay.
You're
right there. You walk to the track. Yeah,
sure. I went to my grandson's kindergarten yesterday, and so he's in the same school that my sons and daughter was. That I am. So we've been here. Wow. Yeah, we've been here for a long time.
Well, Jay, it was a thrill to be there, and it was great to see you guys after the race. I know Tom Law did a great story for us on the race.
Yeah, I did see that. I saw your article, which was very good, and then I saw the the next day article that was
Yeah,
very
well,
good.
we
I
always
think they had an issue. We didn't seem to want to get out of the winner's circle, and they were trying to, they had to coax us. I think they coaxed us with champagne, and that got.
Oh, you went to the champagne room. Good for you.
That'll do
Good
it.
for you.
Did you get it out of the
listen,
vending machine? I saw they had vending machines with champagne in the Saratoga.
I'll tell
Not
you,
yet. I haven't tried that yet, but
well, you win a stakes and they give it to you for nothing, Nick. All you have to do is win a stakes at Saratoga. Any stakes.
If that's
You
not
get
incentive
champagne.
enough, that's enough incentive.
There you go.
no, that like I said, you didn't want the day to end, so it was that exciting kind of.
Well,
thing.
Nick, Jay, I hope to see if everything goes well. I hope to see you back there in whatever it is, about 11 weeks.
Well, the same, and I'll be listening to your. I'll probably go over there on Saturday. I think it looks like they have a good card. The Pegasus looks like it came up.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about it now. We'll give out some, hopefully, some decent horses.
All right, thanks for having me. And,
Thank you, Jay.
We'll see you up there. Take care.
Nice to meet
Great
you.
job.
Well, that was
there you
awesome.
go, Nick. It's that simple, Nick.
That's easy. There you go.
Buy New Jersey bred and have them run out $835,625, which I predict is more than they paid for the horse.
Just a few bucks, maybe. Just a few.
It really
right.
is. We always love the story, Pete. That's a good one. Anyway, here we go.
Well, we love when Jersey people come in. We get Italian, New Jersey. I mean, everything's coming up roses here on the show.
Yes.
Well, let's see if we can give out some winners. Let's jump in now. Let me throw this in here. We'll bring up the cards. So now, everybody, we're going to talk Monmouth, late pick 5. We're going to start in the 8th race, as you can see there. It's a beautiful claiming 7,500. Just the way you always want to. Just the way you always want to start a pick 5 out. We got a field of 8 going. It's purse of a whopping 17.5, and we will look at the favorite. This is one of those good races because it's nice and evenly spread. The favorite, number 2, Made Birdie. Let's check out our picks on the bottom of the screen. Well, I see Nick is coming on the show, raring to go because he's starting off with some quality picks right away. The 215. So, Nick, since you're the maiden guest and it's your maiden voyage on the show, we'll let you go first. Why don't you talk to us about Made Birdie and what do you like about this one? Oh, and by the way, if you misgender the horse, you got to drink. That's the rule on the show.
Oh, God.
Just so you know. Yeah.
Fillies?
These are fillies. That's why I said it.
I have my tequila drink right here, so I'm ready.
There you go. So you're ready to go.
Yes. So I didn't have the morning line odds when I looked at this. So lo and behold, I got the favorites. But, what are you going to do?
That just means you're a good morning line maker. That's the way I look at it.
So, Pete, a lot of my systems. So this was an interesting race because the 1 and 2 ran against each other. They ran first and second. So, I love that.
Love that.
Then, interestingly, the 5, 7, and 8 all ran in the same race also last out.
Yep.
But we got a lot of that knocking heads, reminds us of our old harness days.
Yeah, Meadowlands.
So I went to the 2. I've been preferring horses not on the lead at Monmouth. It's just, back in the day, everyone used to say, "Oh, Monmouth is all speed. Monmouth is all speed." It's not. The prices are pretty good. The prices have increased the last few years for winners. I didn't realize this horse was 3-1, but I went to the 2. Drop down. Comes from, just off it. He'll probably come from just off it here. There's probably 3 horses that want to be near the lead.
Yeah, if you look real quick on the screen, everybody, we have the 1, 6, and 7, at least as far as time form goes, looks like there could be a hot pace. So that's definitely the way I was looking at it too.
I bounced back and forth between 1 and 2 a lot. I could go either way here. I think the 1's going to get a better trip because I think he sits right off the 6 and 7. The jockey on the 1. So I met her. She rode one of my friend's horses in a workout. Man, she has muscles bigger than she can handle a horse, and she's a bug. So you get the weight advantage with her. So I was all about 1 and 2 here, even though some of the other horses are kind of dropping down into where these two ran against each other,
Yeah.
I still kind of like these two.
Well, we'll go to Paul real quick. Paul, you have the one on top. Do you agree? And I guess you see a horse. It's always nice when a horse wins, gets claimed, jockey stays through, which is nice. So, you get some familiarity there. What'd you like about the one?
Well, I wasn't going to go away from the Bucaro right after we had Jay Buscione on talking about Bookham Dano, Pete.
I mean,
by the way, at this point in 2024, the leading New York sire.
That's
because Bookham Dano helps. Bookham Dano helps.
I was going to say it helps when you have that one, but
yeah, I what Nick said. I just think the horse has a chance to get a trip from the inside. Looking at the time form, I didn't use the two, but I liked it. I had the two more as a board horse, but I just threw Paco in there from the outside. But if the time form's accurate, the pace better be really fast for the two to win this race, because that time form has them buried in this field. I did have the morning line because I was very late in doing my picks. So, and I look at it, the one's only 4-1, but the two is the type of horse that I have no problem getting beat by. If she in fact is the favorite and one for 13 lifetime.
Yeah.
If I get beat by her, that's not an issue. And as far as horses, I thought the 8 with Paco, as Tom Espinoza mentioned in the chat, he will be coming. Not sure if he'll get there, and I thought the 5 also in this particular race, because of the class drop, I think has a chance to come from behind as well. But I'm going with the daughter of Bucaro.
Can't go wrong there. Yeah, the 5 I had. Wayne Potts was 24% win, 62% in the money in claiming level dirt sprints at Monmouth. So he gets his horses right here. The only thing that I was unclear, so both of the 5's lifetime wins, both of her lifetime wins came on the front end as well. And she doesn't necessarily look as fast, or even if she is, she's going to have some competition to her outside, one on the inside. So it makes it feel like the speed's going to be tough. Yeah, I'm with you guys. Anybody else you guys want to hit? Or I think we've covered all of our horses. I don't think there's anybody else here that we need to jump into. So let's jump into the next one.
I'd like to hit the racing secretary for making that the first leg of the pick 5.
Yeah, we talked about that off air. But the good thing is, what do we always say, Paul? If that one doesn't go right, we got the 4 next, man. You get the 4 stakes, so you can't complain about the quality of the field. All right, so we have the 9th race coming up. The Eaton Town, a grade 3, purse $150,000. We're going a mile and a 16th on the turf. We got a field of 10, and the favorite, the number 6, Spirit and Glory. And let's see who we are going with in this one. We are, all 3 of us, different picks here. So I actually have a funny horse that Nick, I know you'll notice in a second. But Paul, I'll let you go first this time. You're going with the favorite, the number 6, Spirit and Glory. What do you think about this one? Speed.
Well, yeah, and I probably over handicap company lines, Pete, but boy, Nisi Marie is in some kind of form right now.
Yes.
Ran a good second to, was it Didia maybe the other day?
Nisi Marie was second to Didia, yep, and beat White, and then White Beam came back and ran the nice
White
second
Beam
to Chili Flag.
Yeah, White Beam is a real good Chad Brown. So,
yeah.
And you get Bravo at Monmouth, and I mean, again, not really thrilled with having the favorite in a race like this, because I do think I think it's a tough race horizontally, and you'll see, Pete, I think it's one of those races where you have to go pretty narrow, very wide. I went pretty narrow because I went
you say
wider.
That. Wait till you see Nick's ticket. You'll see how Nick thought about this when we get to his ticket.
Well,
spoil it yet.
I'm not so sure the penultimate leg is not a similar race.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take my chances here. I thought the 6 has a good chance to go and keep going, and I think Tax Implications is one of those horses for Chad who doesn't seem to ever get there, including the last race at Monmouth, which I'm assuming was a prep for this horse. But again, a horse you have to think with Pratt, is going to be right in the thick of things. But
Yeah, that was a
yeah, I
hard one.
landed on
I
the
think the
6.
Pratt factor moved the 7 up. That's why I wound up putting the 7 in the top 3
Yep.
because the Pratt factor. And the only thing, like, she doesn't seem to have improved much over the course of last year to this year, but she runs a pretty good race. And if Pratt can work out the trip, then we'll see where she lands. Nick, you're going up top in the 1 horse with Sacred Wish, George Weaver with Kendrick, who was aboard her last time when she sort of rolled. What do you like about this one?
So I like the horse was running against the best fillies, when she was on the dirt.
Yeah.
Then switched over to the turf and looked like a whole different horse, running against, pretty good horses on the turf. She's done well. She seems like she's improving on the figs. So I like the trip. Kendrick will probably have her close. Monmouth, the turf at Monmouth lately, I feel like if you're not within a few lengths of the lead, turning for home, you're running maybe to second or third. That horse seems to spurt away. This is one of those horses I feel like that on the turn maybe can get up the rail. Kendrick keeps her on the rail, and she spurts up the rail and maybe takes it from there.
That's a good call, especially if the 6 looks like, well, we showed the time form earlier, but if we look at it again really quickly, the 6 looks like the lead, but there's a couple other horses that do have speed that if they can contest the 6 at all, and like you said, if the 1 just saves ground and gets that trip, then I think she can definitely be dangerous. I think neither one of you guys have. So I went all the way to the outside. I always get suckered in by the up and coming Chad Brown that always screws me. And like, I hate what you said, just basically puts this horse in the toilet, Nick. So this is a guaranteed third where Mama on June will be way in the back and will wind up closing for a piece. But I was just looking at it mostly. You put this horse on the turf. She's just, she gets in the Chad Brown bar, which obviously when you put her in the Chad Brown barn and put her on the turf and you see the breeding there, she just looks like she's going to be tough. And even from coming from way back, she comfortably won both of her races. And if we do get a little bit more speed up front, I'm looking at if the race does go that way, she by far has the best late kick. So I'm hoping, though, that maybe they can keep her a little bit closer. I mean, if you look at her, she has 0 speed, so she's never in the race at all. So hopefully she can make a little bit more ground up early so she doesn't have as much to do. Let me see. We think we hit. What did you have? We talked about the 7, so I think we're good there. The one I wanted to mention real quick, Nick, you'll like this one. The number 4. No Show Sammy Joe. So as I mention on the show all the time, my dad loves to play names. My dad's name is Sam. My brother's name is Joe. So this is a Sam Visco special. So in case anybody wants to follow that, right, Nick? This one, as soon as I saw
double down on this one for Sam.
That's
for
it.
sure.
Yeah, 3 straight wins. We'll get there. Anybody else you want to hit in this one, Paul?
No, I think that horse is dangerous. The 4, I picked third, and it's a motion. Buyers have improved every race. Graham spots his horses very well. So yeah, I will. I did not have this horse on my ticket only because I only went 2 deep in this race.
Yeah.
So, but certainly she'll be on my ABC grid.
I mean, the couple of things I actually did like, more no joking aside about the names, is that she had such a long layoff and she came back first, and maybe she's just, and what I put in the notes there, people could see on the screen, maybe she's just better and she gets sometimes that progression from 3 to 4. They just really improve and you just don't know. I mean, she came back with a really nice race coming from off the pace. Maybe she likes that. People see, I think you'll get the price too, Paul and Nick, because people see Pratt to Ruiz, but Motion uses Ruiz in some big races. So it's not like for him. I mean, obviously it's a downgrade, but it's not like for him, he's going to some jockey that he doesn't like to use very much. They've been very successful together.
The Brison has him at 36% winners together, 76% in the money.
Yeah.
25 starts. That's impressive.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, that's not a tiny sample size. So, oh, and I did notice the one thing I did notice, I was just looking at the configuration because you could see it coming out of the chute. In case people don't know Monmouth very well, at 1.16 miles, they come out of that little chute there. The 4-horse at this configuration wins at 35%. And it wasn't like out of 6 races. It was a half decent sample size. So maybe that's a horse that we should make sure we at least put on a ticket somewhere. All right, let's move to the 10th. Move to the next one. The 10th race, we have... But Nick, was this the Pegasus that used to be at the Meadowlands? Is this the same Pegasus? Did it move, or is it a different one now? I don't even remember anymore.
I feel like that was a turf race. No?
Oh, maybe
no,
that.
No,
maybe
no, maybe not. Maybe it was at the Meadowlands.
Do you remember?
It was run after... So it used to be the Long Branch was the prep for the Haskell. Then I guess they took the Pegasus from the Meadowlands, moved it in between the Long Branch and the Haskell. And you'll see C Streak in the Pegasus won the Long Branch.
Oh, that's right. Yes, you're right. I think you're right then. All right, so we got the Pegasus. It's a purse of $150,000. Like I said, we're going 1.16 miles on the dirt here. We have a pretty even field of 8 going. And again, we have a relatively soft favorite, Tuscan Sky, 5-2 for Pletcher Castellano. Let's see who we picked here. We actually, we're in the neighborhood together on this one. So I'll go with you, Nick, first this time. The 5-horse Hades. You got this one on top. What do you like?
So I liked that I read an article about Joe Orsino saying this might be the best 3-year-old he's had. And he was really good early. He had a little issue, never said what the issue was. And then they put him away for a little bit. They're bringing him back. I really like the numbers early. When he won the Holy Bull, basically against half of this field. I'm going to go back with it. I'm going to go off of that. I actually singled it to cheat my pick 5.
Cheat your pick 5, yeah.
Yes.
And his brushed off Fierceness in the Holy Bull. It's like Fierceness came on his hip and he brushed him off. That's Paul's horse, Fierceness. So he doesn't, not a huge fan. All right, Paul, we'll jump to you real quick. You're going with the 1 Tuscan Sky, who's in the Wood Memorial, just basically crapped the bed, and there's not too much you can say about that. It was just this was a horse that I think people had a lot of high hopes for, and you came into that. So, what do you think about the bounce back here?
Well, I think I'm trying to get some of that Wood Memorial money back.
Oh, you had him, right? You did. I remember. Out of Vino Rosso, out of Curlin. You're so predictable sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know. He likely will be over betting this race, but you know what? I think he might not be the only one. Nick could be onto something. The number might be right on Hades because, I've seen a lot of buzz online already about the 8. And, that's an impressive race and really could be getting good and 91 buyer. But, if the 8 goes off 5-2 or 3-1, that's no bargain.
Yeah.
So I just, I think the 1 gets a good trip. I like that Javier's going down there. Obviously, he's riding a horse later in the sequence. I think it's for Pletcher as well, or it might be for Chad. But, I thought the 1, 5, and 8 were the horses you wanted. Although, domestic product. If you throw out the Derby, which
you can tend to do, I'm
typically right 20 race demolition Derby. And he's 3-1 morning line despite that. So he's going to take money too. It'll be interesting to see where the board goes on this race, Nick. I think the 8's going to get bet, and you might be on. Maybe Hades slips through the cracks a little bit. Tuscan Sky has got to get bet. It's a Pletcher shipping in, so that's not great. But I do think there's a chance. If the Wood was a total anomaly, 95 buyer in race number 2 fits pretty well in this race if he can come close to that.
2 quick things I'll mention on the 1 before Nick, I'll go to you to talk about the 8. on the one weird thing that doesn't happen very often. Tuscan Sky has the top time form early pace and the top time form late pace. That very rarely happens in these races. I don't know what that means much. I don't know what I'd like to see a stat on that to see if that works well or doesn't. The thing that scared me a little, Paul, is the first two, and you don't know, the first two races were both on off tracks and with Lasix. The Wood was on a fast track with no Lasix. This one looks to be on a fast track with no Lasix. So that was the thing that scared me. If you're trying to beat, again, if you're looking for chinks in the armor of a 5-2 favorite, those things scare me. And I saw Pletcher 2 for 17 first time blinkers in listed stakes races. So again, that's not necessarily a move that works for him, at least at this level. But let's jump down. So C Streak, this is a nice Monmouth horse for you, Nick. So in the long branch, what'd you like?
Since we were talking Derby futures, Tuscan Sky was one of my Derby futures.
Oh, good.
My other two made the race and didn't run well, but that was my high hope because I think I had some pretty big odds when I bet it. I think it might have been all
Nick, we don't really talk on this show about Derby futures with big odds.
I know.
I don't know if Pete told you that. But
yeah,
I know.
I can assure you, whatever big odds you had, you're in third place in this group. Big odds.
It still sucks, though. It still sucks, though, anyway.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so, I mean, this horse, C Streak, we were talking about it earlier before we came on. C Streak's first career race was actually in a stake race and ran second to Bookham Dano.
Yep.
So that's not, and then, the ran a Jersey bred maiden special and, easily swept the field and won by 4. A very good horse. Only really had that one bad race in the Holy Bull. I'm a little worried if hopefully the horse isn't distance challenged and this 16th of a mile is a problem.
Yeah.
But, won at a mile 70, so that's only 40 yards or different than a mile in 16th. So
and in the Holy Bull, I rewatched it yesterday because I couldn't remember. I remembered what happened at the top, but not on the back. And he was just sort of hung wide. He got bumped a little bit. He was definitely wide. He didn't get the best of trips. They tried to make a move. Panici tried to make a move with him, and it just sort of fizzled out. So I don't know if I'd hold that one too much against him, especially it was the first time jumping up. And I think it looks like he might just be getting better. So he's probably better now than he was then.
Yeah, and the Rendon Owens combination is amazing. 5 for 6 winners.
Yeah, that's
something.
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, you see Rendon 25%. You see Owens 7 out of 9 in the money, 5 for 9 wins so far at the meet.
Rendon's been pretty hot. Last weekend he did well. Him and Paco are winning a lot of the races there. So and when the jockeys come from out of town, they want to show that this is their track. So I think Paco and Rendon are going to be trying hard to beat Pratt and Castellano and Kendrick and all the crew coming in. Yep.
Yeah, I had the 7. We talked quickly about domestic product. I won't say too much. The run with this horse is, you could toss the Derby, didn't get the best trip, got sort of knocked around right at the start and was basically out of it. And he's just had bad luck with being a horse who sits off the pace and keeps getting slow paces in front of him. I'm not sure he's not going to get something similar here. It depends on, and we can look at the time form real quick before we move on. Doesn't look like it. It just looks like a moderate pace from the time form. If Tuscan Sky goes, maybe Hades goes as well. But I think they all have a little bit of speed, but I don't know about a heat up kind of speed. So
I agree.
Yeah, but I think at least enough to be maybe a little bit better than what he got in Tampa and even what they got in the Holy Bull, hopefully. So I'm going to go there. We talked about it before the race. I don't know if I trust any of these horses, and that's the problem. So it's hard to whittle it down to a winner. Paul, you got anybody else in this one, or are you ready to move on?
I think I'm ready to move on, but on the speed conversation, Pete, I don't be surprised to see Tuscan Sky very close to it, if not on it. I think they're going to – I think they send from in there.
From the rail, you would think so, right? And it
blinkers
feels like,
on.
You put the blinkers on, you assume that's what's going to happen. I agree. All right, well, let's move to the. Oh, sorry, we scrolled up the wrong way there for a second. Here we go. Race number 11, the Monmouth Stakes, named after Monmouth, obviously. Grade 3 again, purse 150,000. This time we're going a mile and an eighth on the turf. We got a nice field of 9 going, and again, very lukewarm favorite, which we're getting here, and we kind of like. Here's the Pletcher Castellano again, Paul, that maybe you were thinking of. The favorite here, the number 4 Grand Sonata. Again, Pletcher Castellano, 3-1. Let's see who we're going with. We have again. So me and Nick are going with the same horse on top. Paul, you are going with the 8 horse, so we'll let you go first. The 8, Tawnyport, who we know has actually been knocking heads with some pretty strong company. I think this is maybe a little bit of class relief. What do you like about this one?
Well, first of all, Pete, the horse has entered at Churchill as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you hear anything? I didn't see anything yet.
I did not. I did not. If Uncle Howard were with us, we could have him reach out to Miguel. So I do not have any because, it looks like the horse is based at Belmont. So if he's going to run at Churchill, I would say he's probably already shipped or he's shipping very early tomorrow morning. But anyway, I just thought, you know what, Pete, as you said, he's been kind of knocking around, but he's been knocking around with some pretty good horses. Silver Knot is, as Noah has pointed out to us, is really, really solid right now. I just kind of looked at it as, maybe it's his turn, right? Very consistent. If you look at the buyers, there's a range of like 91 to 98 and, everything in between. He's in that range every single time. Yeah. So, I thought Rendon could get a decent trip, and B, I don't think this race has a ton of speed.
Yeah, let's take a look.
In fact, it doesn't have a ton of speed.
It doesn't, you see some horses on the top, but if you look at them, when you actually look at them, none of them are pure speed horses.
Yeah, there's no way Tawnyport is going to be dead last in this race.
No, so not in this field.
If he runs here, you can call time form now and tell them their chicklets are colored wrong, because I'm not saying he's going to win, but there's a much better chance he wins than he's dead last. Turn. Anyhow, I just kind of thought maybe, but this is the race I referred to earlier, Pete.
Yeah.
I think I went 5 deep. And that's without using what you might say is a logical Chad, Adamo, the 6. So I just thought, I think the 2's dangerous. Cherie DeVoe's horse. We talked. Pletcher's horse is probably not good as a favorite. You don't maybe want him as a favorite.
Yeah.
But also been running with some pretty good horses. I think the 5 is very tough here. It looks like you guys agree because you both picked them. So why don't I shut up and you guys talk about the 5?
Yeah, go ahead, Nick. I was going to let you jump in with that one. Siege of Boston for James Toner. What do you like?
Yeah, so my hope is we're not dead last early, and somehow Ruiz gets this horse a little bit closer.
Yeah.
Like Paul said, I don't know that there's that much speed that he can come from the clouds here to win. So I'm hoping there's a few slow horses in here, and he at least is
beating a couple of them.
Well, that's why I went 5 deep, because I didn't love this horse.
Yeah.
And I spread it around. Tawnyport, I kind of didn't put Tawnyport in because of the whole cross-entered thing.
Yeah.
I didn't want to sign up for a horse and then all of a sudden it didn't enter. So it'll be different when I'm there.
That's right. We won't hold that against you. We don't hold that against people on here if they pick one that doesn't actually run. We let that go. You actually went, though, real quick. We'll go to one more. You went with Adamo for Brown and Pratt. This is just one of those horses that I was just done with, and one of these days he'll wind up popping up and winning. But he just looks to me like his days are sort of behind him. But again, that's against a heck of a lot better horses than he's seeing here. So is that what you like? Did you just sort of like that he's getting a little class relief? Or
I mean, all the best turf horses.
If you look on that page,
America were in the races that horse was in.
Yeah.
So that class relief sometimes really wakes those horses up.
Yep.
They're out there all of a sudden. They're like, "Hey, I'm the king of this group, and I can beat these after running against, all those monsters.
Those monsters. Well, and you see too, it's been a while, but back in 2022, his only start here, he won the United Nations with a 104. But he was obviously in a little bit maybe better form back then. But again, it's hard to know when you're going against Auguste Rodin, Warm Heart, I'm Very Busy, Nation's Pride. Those are, Warlike Goddess. Yeah. Those are just pretty tough. Yeah. But, and you get Pratt back. But again, the last 2 times Pratt had him, he finished 10th, but those were grade 1. So who the hell knows? Yeah, he's one that he's just going to beat me one of these times, and I'm just going to lose and just say, screw it. What can you do? Sometimes you lose to him. Paul, you got anybody else in here you want to talk about? I know you said you're
no, I think I touched on it. I mentioned the Cherie DeVoe is dangerous, the 2, the 4, obviously. You guys talked about the 5. I mentioned the 6, probably if I were going to play a ticket like the caveman I gave you, Pete, which I'm not, I think I'd have to go, adding the 6 only adds 20% to the ticket. So it'd be crazy to get beat by him. And, I don't want to get beat by the other chatty outside, the 9. Whom I picked second.
Yes, that's what I wanted to talk about that one. Yeah,
could get kind of a forward trip here. Ran okay last time. Balnikov ran huge in that race.
Yeah,
and Kerry Bryan, God love her, with Crabs and Beer running a second at big number. But this horse didn't run badly. Was the favorite in that race with Balnikov. Shemino's not bad. Shemino lost Didier because of the really head-scratching ride in the Breeders' Cup where the horse was, way too far behind. And Jose Ortiz has come on to fit that horse like a glove. But I think Shemino is a pretty good jockey. So, so there's many in here you could go with.
Yeah, the 9, the one thing I'll mention, and 2 things, and one's to sort of Nick's point there. This horse hadn't been on a firm turf since back in Tampa in February, so maybe getting back on a firm course, which it looks like it'll be. And Nick, to your point where you said there's not a ton of speed, but there's some deep closers that we like. But this looks like the horse that could just sit right off the speed. And if the speed does just not catch just enough, this one could get first run on those closers. And if a horse like Tawny Port is a little too far back, or Siege of Boston is a little too far back, then maybe Running B is the one that'll benefit the most from that. That's the way I thought about it, which is why I had that one in second. Paul, you did too. So we all are on the 9. And again, it's a Chad Brown on a turf at Monmouth. So it's not a lot.
It's a fantastic betting race. This is. You can make money on this race. I know it.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be interesting to see how the odds swing. I'll be curious to see which ones actually eventually take the money.
Chad will always get bet at Monmouth, so I'm sure his 2 will get bet.
And his percentages, they back that up, so it's not that surprising. All right, let's move to the 12th, the final leg. We'll see if we can get paid on this pick 5. Another grade 3, the Salvatore Mile purse, $150,000. We're going a mile for 3-year-olds and up. We got 8 horses, and this is the one where we actually have a big favorite. We have the 2 Bright Future, Pletcher Castellano again, Paul. So you were right. He's got those 2 have at least 3 in this sequence. Even money, but I think there's a few questions about this one, and we'll see what we think. We're all going with the 2 on top. Paul, I'll let you take this one first. What do you like about the 2, and do you think coming off a pretty lengthy layoff since the Classic, do you think this one just looks pretty good for this field?
Yeah, that's the key parenthetical reference, Pete, for this field.
For this field,
I think Roger Atfield is terrific. I have no idea what Roger Atfield's doing in a dirt race with Cheryl Spite. I love Jeff Runco. I'm going to use the 8, the West Virginia horse. Jeff Runco is a tremendous trainer at Charlestown, and horse didn't run awful in the mud at Pimlico. Didn't get near the lead, which he likes to do. But other than that, Artorias is the other horse I used, but don't really. I guess you could say the 1. That's a pretty good race off of Skippy Longstocking, who's running pretty well.
Running really well right now. Yeah.
But again, I didn't really like the 5 a lot, who's relatively low in the morning line. I don't like the 4 at all. I like the 8, but I think is more as a price play. The 7's a bond. So I just looked around and said, boy, if you're Pletcher and you're looking to bring this horse back, if you want to use a grade 3 as a prep, if there is such a thing, boy, he landed in a pretty good spot. That doesn't mean he's going to win, but boy, the entries worked out about as well as he could have hoped, didn't they?
Yeah, and you see the work. I mean, it looks like the horse is coming back sharp. You see that 3 out of 172, a 47-3 minute here. So the works have been pretty strong. Nick, you're on the 2 as well. Again, It just looks like from a class standpoint, just sort of towers over this field. It's hard to get around him.
Yeah, I mean that work 3 out of 172. You got to like that one.
Yeah.
At Belmont, the Cheryl Spite, Paul. If you notice, 2 years back, Cheryl Spite ran in the same race. It was a 5-horse field. I think they were just trying to get some black type money, black type on the dirt because it's a turf horse. So they finished 3rd.
But hey, mind control,
the same thing.
Mind control,
Yeah.
Hot Rod Charlie. That I mean, if you're going to finish 3rd, those two aren't bad.
That was a good race. Mind control ran his head off in that race.
Yeah, that was a great one. They came down the lane. Yeah, remember that. When you see the works have been really good, but the works have all been on synth. So I actually put Cheryl Spite in 2nd, only again from a class standpoint. That if he does take to the dirt again like he ran before, just from a class standpoint, he's right up there with the not too far behind the 2. So if he takes to it and you get this 8-1 price, shoot, I'll take a 2-4 cold exacta and be happy with it at this price.
Yeah, I mean,
all right, Paul.
A lot of the speed is a little outside. The turn comes up quick in a mile race. They don't run a lot of mile races at Monmouth. Most of them are mile 70. Gives a little more time to get to the first turn. That's why I was all about 1, 2, and 3.
I think
want to
that's
get the best position.
Yeah, I think that's right. Artorias is a weird one. Again, here's another one that picks up Pratt. It's a brown Pratt. Looked like they wanted to do something with this horse last year. Obviously, went into the Travers. Hey, Paul, wasn't this Howard's? Wasn't he going to win the Breeders' Cup Classic after the Curlin? I thought wasn't that one of Howard's proclamations?
Yes, and then he was going to win the Intergalactic Championship on Mars, and Howard had him going everywhere.
So he's working his way back. Hey, he beat. He lost the Blazing Sevens. That's something. Win an optional claimer 62. That's almost like winning the Classic. That's right in the same vicinity. So I think we're all in agreement on here. Let's jump real quick. We have Emily sitting in the green room waiting patiently for us. So we don't want to keep her waiting too much longer.
No,
so
let's get to the tickets.
Yeah, we'll get to our tickets real quick. I'll just read them off, and you can give me like a 2-second on. You don't have to go race by race, but if you just had some sort of what your strategy was. So I'll read it off first. This is Nick's ticket. He's going 1, 2, 5 with all, which is what we talked about, with 5, with 2, 5, 6, 8, 9, and then closing it off on another single with the 2, and that's a $75 ticket. What were you thinking there, Nick? Just going for everything in that second leg?
I was thinking I can't wait to see the 3 to 5 shot cost me the pick 5. That's what I thought first when I put this on paper.
That sounds right.
I started with the 3 horses I sent you, and then I just kind of added, subtracted. I like to speak about Hades, so I went for a single. I could have spread more there if I wanted. I got to take a stand somewhere. Yeah. And then I'm like, where am I going to get a price? I thought it was the second leg. I'm like, I hate all in a 10-horse field, but
the favorite's a lock, obviously, in the second leg. That's what always happens, right, Paul? Yes. That's what always winds up happening.
Yeah, the worst thing, Nick, is getting knocked out. The second worst thing is going all and having the favorite win. Yes. Yeah. And it's pretty close. It's pretty close.
Yeah. I'm not sure I'm a fan of
either. Earlier and not spread as much later, so I can be alive in the third leg. So when Pete and I are texting about being alive, I could actually say I'm alive by the third leg, which is always nice.
Because
I hate the text of, "Oh, I'm out already." Okay.
Yeah, I'm done. We know that one all too well.
Doesn't matter when you lose, Nick. You got to hit 5 for 5.
No.
All right, let's put Paul. Let me put Paul's up. I'll read his off. Paul's going with 158, with 6-7, with 158, with 2, 4, 5, 8, 9. And closing it out with 2, 3, and that's a $90 ticket. Paul, anything you want to point out here?
Yeah, I mean, my going too deep in that second leg is almost like singling, because you saw what you saw what Nick did. So that's the race that I think is difficult for me.
Hey,
you
look,
know,
Nick,
again,
on the
on a,
board, real quick, Paul. Look on the screen there, Nick. There's your boy Toomey in the chat there.
He
Oh,
loves
yeah.
Riri. That's his favorite. So
sorry, Paul.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, that's okay. And you know, on a caveman, you know, going too deep in a race like Bright Future probably wouldn't be the brightest thing to do.
Yeah.
Although I do think Artorias is coming back into form. I think Artorias will run off of that last race, and I do believe if Bright Future gets beat, it will be by Artorias. But yeah, I think the second leg is a tough leg. Obviously, you know, Nick has it all, and I along with Nick, I went 5 deep in that second to last leg, and that's without Adamo, who I would have to use in other circumstances. So
yeah, that makes sense. All right, I'll throw mine up real quick. I cheated. Since I'm the host this week, I figured I can cheat. I'm going over the 100 because, hey, I'm the host. I do whatever I feel like today. So my ticket, 125 with 1679 with 178 with 589, and I'm going with 24 for $108. Yeah, same thing. If I was playing this ticket, I probably wouldn't go 2-4 in the last leg, but I figured, what the heck, I'll take a shot and go with. I like Cheryl Spite just in case. What if she classes? She always call that horse a she, for Christ's sake.
Earl.
What if he classes up and takes to the dirt, and Bright Future just for some reason isn't sharp? So we'll take a shot there. But that's it, Monmouth, Nick. So Paul, you want to give a quick critique for our first time joiner here? How do you do? We can welcome
I will
back,
tell you
maybe?
what. I think people are already saying Uncle Who.
It's our new
not Uncle Heavy. Uncle Who?
Uncle Who?
Nick was great, and I think it was really worked out great, Nick, having you on with Jay to keep the Jersey theme, because probably no one can relate to their success better than you, Nick.
Yeah, I wish I could relate to his success on
a
the
little
race
bit
track,
more, maybe.
But, that one.
Well, it's lightning. You could strike lightning, Nick.
Our win, the only win, was actually a DQ when we got DQ'd up.
Hey,
so
at the window, that's the same.
Bumped us twice, got DQ'd, we got moved up. I was standing next to Kent Sweezy, and I was talking to him, and he said, I think you're going to get moved up. And I'm like, upstairs. And I said to my wife, I said, we got to get downstairs to the winner's circle. And we're like now running through Monmouth Park Grandstand trying to get to the winner's circle. As we get to the bottom of the stairs, they announce it, and I'm still 100 yards away. And I'm like running, and I'm like trying to pull my wife along so we can get in the winner's circle for the photo, because it was my first time ever. Yes, and we made it. So it was exciting. But I want to cross the wire first. So, so hopefully that happens sooner rather than later.
So you're like Brad Cox in the Derby, basically, is what you're telling us. You know, you just don't want to get that real win, even though you want to get
Bill Mott.
And Bill Mott, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, before you guys leave, I'll bring Emily. I see you sitting back there. We'll bring Emily on so you guys can say hello. We got the fantastic Emily Gullickson from Hawthorne coming on. Hey, Emily, how's it going?
Hi, I'm doing good. I'm listening to the conversation. Can I throw one more horse into the mix?
Of course.
Yes.
It's kind of wild. It's kind of crazy in the finale, because I do agree that the 2 is the horse to beat, Bright Future, but coming off the way off, and this horse is super sneaky, is Stage Raider. He's also going to come off the layoff, but here's the thing. Stage Raider has really sneaky good form around 2 turns, just kind of isolating those races. And they're few and far between, because a lot of his races are at that 7 furlong, 8 furlong, 1-turn mile. Now, going into, as far as the most recent races, that's where it takes a little bit more on the creativity front. So back in he won around 2 turns at Ellis Park, and then he ran into Akac, which is a 1-turn mile. And I thought that race was like so clever to then put him at 2 turns in the Breeders' Cup Mile. And he just didn't handle the track at all, was completely climbing over the surface. So they wheel him right back in 20 days. And then if you want to complete line through draw race, it's that November 24th Clark, where he was going a little bit longer. And then he did the same thing at the gate. He was just a mess at the gate back on December 23rd at the fairgrounds. So he's freshened. He's at a 1-turn or a 2-turn mile. in a spot where on his best day he could fit, and the horses think that, I mean, they thought enough to run him in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. He's another horse in there that I would just use. I tried to find some works because of the gate, and there's no works I could see, but there's steady works, and the pattern of the works is like multiple days apart. And, I don't know. Keep it on the radar, especially if Cherie DeVaux's horses are running big.
Yeah, good point, Emily. Yeah, absolutely. And well, you may not be able to watch it, but one top workout out of 113 at Keeneland last Saturday.
That's the thing. It's on paper. Who's to know? I'd rather watch it and then be able to see, especially with the gate antics, because that's what I really look for. Is this guy got his head screwed back on straight? Because if so, he's dangerous.
I always had a soft spot for him, and he starts testing that though with those last few. It's been tough to hang on to him. So,
well, that's why that's why you're going to get the price, right?
Yeah,
because he's not the most likely winner, but he has the races that could win.
But again, if you do like Bright Future, he might be a nice one too. If you want to go a cold exact.
Oh yeah, his race that he's coming out of, the Breeders' Cup Classic, that was. You play him back off that race. If anyone wants to go back and watch it, where the ride wasn't ideal, he had to make a move, he had to close. The overall visuals, that horse is a playback. So no knocks there. But anytime you have a layoff, who knows? He's at a mile versus the longer, so some intent. But yeah.
All right, well, we're going to move on to Hawthorne. So Paul, always great having you guys. See you. Nick, thanks for coming the first time. We'll bring you. Maybe we'll bring you back. We got some. We'll do Monmouth. We'll squeeze Monmouth in. Maybe when your horse goes, make sure he runs on a Saturday so we can. And in the late races, late pick 5, we need him in.
Yeah, so we're shooting for a Sunday right now. So sorry.
We'll do it 3. So me, you, and Paul can do a quick Sunday. We can do it anytime we want. It doesn't matter. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, fellas.
Thank you, Emily. Always a pleasure.
All right. See you guys. Right. Bye. Hey, Emily. Nice meeting you. So I was laughing. I don't know if you saw my email. I was plugging your picks in, and I was like, man, my picks are so different. Either I handicapped the wrong races, or my picks are going to go right in the tube, because I know these horses a hell of a lot better than I do. So
I think as a handicapper in general across the board, you should always want your picks to be different.
Obviously,
that's always a good thing. It's always a good thing because
I think we'll get to it, but you singled a horse that I think I didn't even have in my top 3, so I'm like, I got to be missing something there potentially, but we'll see. Let's get
I'll try to make the case, and
you make the case.
I'm a gambler. All right.
Hey, that's what you do. That's why you're here. That's why you're a superstar on television and everything. And I'm just sitting here.
I still don't know why they put me up there, but as long as they do, I'll keep showing up.
Just to make Jim look good. For that's pretty much the only reason. I do have to say though, the last time I did Hawthorne with Jim, I think I did hit the pick 4. So that was my one and only where I was the host with Jim. And so I have my 1-for-1 record. I should have taken that to the grave and just been happy with it. All right, well, let's jump in. We'll go race 6, claiming 5,000, purse 11.5. We got a mile and 70 yards, and we have a field of 8. With another, I like these lukewarm favorite kind of races, at least on paper. We got the 6 looking for revenge. Let's see where we go. So you are going with the 4 Future Vision. Let's take a look. Tell me what you like.
So Future Vision is coming into this race with a progressive form cycle pattern, and he's coming out of races that have a similar race par. So I just, following that progression race to race, where starting that cycle back on May 5th, where he lost ground early on, but then continued to put a big gallop out past the wire. Then they came back in just 6 days to sprint. Just maybe the timing wasn't what they were looking for. And then as far as the race on June 1st, the track conditions were poor. It was raining that day. The track was sealed, and he still made like a good close. And it doesn't look like it. It looks like an even effort. But what I'm looking at in the optics grades is he ran a C, he ran a C+, he ran a B-, and that's just overall kind of statistically we can see that move forward pattern, and his numbers fit. And then looking at the race shape as a whole, there's not a lot of pace in here.
Yeah,
So we both have the 8 in the mix because there is a threat where the 8 can go gate to wire.
Yeah.
And yeah, you see where the 4 is sitting, right? The 4 is sitting right there. And the 4 to me is kind of in that same position as the 6, where the 6 is going to be highly owned and the 4 not so much. So that's the type of horse that for me, I could single there, get some separation. And I always like to single in the first leg. Just kind of one of those people that if I'm out, I'll play the pick 3.
Hey, pick 3.
If I'm if I'm live with the price, then that's exactly where I want to be.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the way I looked at, honestly, without, obviously you see the horses, me, I watch replays and stuff, but I look at it and go, the 0 for 13 at Hawthorne and the 0 for 10 and the 2 for 38 Lifetime, to me, looks like a horse. Like I would think about this one as a horse that I like the progression like you're talking about, but maybe just isn't the type of horse that's going to win the race, but you can get underneath. So if you do like, we do both, we'll go down to the 8 because we do like the 8. If you can get a horse like the 8 who does jump and get on the lead and can win, then having the 4 horse in the try with a horse like this on top or in the mix, I'll take that. Yeah. Not that this one likes to win 0 for 9 at Hawthorne, 1 for 14 at the
these are condition claimers, right? They're all in this race because they haven't won in a certain period of time. That's so they're among friends. And I'm always cautious about when we talk about the overall record because there's so much context that has to go into that, right? Like this horse was racing for a different barn at the time. There was different layoff lines. There was trips and the speed figures that were consistent. So I don't really look at it as being like, oh, he's 0 for 13 at Hawthorne. He can't run his race here. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Well, and you look at it too, and even if you're 1 for 14 like this horse is at going the distance, it's still you won 1. And if you catch that 1 and that's the right day when everything comes together, it doesn't matter what the record looks like if you just catch him on the right day against the right field under the right conditions. I mean, that's fine.
Well, yeah, and I mean talking about a horse like the 4, he only really has his form locally could be assessed by those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 most recent races because that's when the barn change happened.
Yeah.
And so if you're going off that record, you're looking at 5 races with 3 place finishes.
Yeah.
And some weirdo timing. So
and the two that were the only thing I looked at, and I just wanted to check it to make sure I was thinking about it right. The 3 good ones were sprinting. The 2 bad ones were routing. So that gave me a little bit of pause as well. But again, I think trip-wise, I don't think you're going to get
that. Yeah, that April 14th race, that's a major trouble trip.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't think you're going to get that again. So you can't really blame on that one. But still. Anybody? So you have, let's see, we talked about the 1, Chicks for Free, you have in second. What do you like about this one?
Yeah, so it's kind of a similar. I mean, it's the same barn for one, and it's a similar form cycle pattern, really. I mean, since they took over the horse, he ran a competitive race, the race back on March 24th, which is opening weekend. Yep. That's a race that was a higher race par than today. That race makes this horse a major player. Yeah. Since that race, he actually improved his speed figure despite running against a tougher group back on April 14th. Then in that 2 weeks later, the April 27th race, he was a no push. He took kickback on May 12th, which does worry me a little bit from the inside, but I think there's enough price compensation there. And then coming back from the June 2nd race where he broke slow and he did make a move. So showed a little bit more. And that race was 25,000. So I don't really count that race. And going back to the other races, has that excuse on the timing, those faster figures from earlier in the season, especially if the front wraps are off today, then this horse is a major push.
Yeah, I guess my one concern was I wasn't sure, again, if you're getting similar trips from the back, if I didn't see a ton of pace in here, but again, with the 8 goes, if there wasn't a ton of pace, is this one going to maybe get shuffled a bit and have a hard time just closing, at least for the win? Again, if I'm thinking more pick 5 or in this case pick 4, looking wins more than anything. Let me look real quick. So I had the 3 Not Very Gentle on top. You don't have this one. I think this was similar where I didn't love, especially if you're just looking at it from a figure standpoint, there was a regression, and the horse is now 8, which again, the older we get, I know what regression is like the older you get. So this horse maybe, but it's not like he didn't finish poorly and he got into, I mean, both horses in this race, I mean, lost by 20. The winner won by 20. The winner won by 12. And they were both speed horses who just sort of got away. So it's hard to tell. And this one, it's not like he sat in second and just ran around the track and did nothing. At least he showed some kick just to get second, beat the rest of the field in that one, and was close 2 back. What do you dislike about this one, or is there anything that puts you against them?
I mean, it's all context, right? And in terms of a pick 4 and in terms of value, I think he'll probably be shorter.
Yeah.
And the Heron Barnes been sending out a lot of live runners, so I am not against this horse by any means. I just think that if he is shorter, if I'm looking, and I'm looking at the information objectively, I'm looking at the plot, I'm seeing where the 3 is, I'm seeing where the 1 is, I'm seeing where the 7 is, I'm seeing where the 5 is. They're all in the same position. They're all squares, but Not Very Gentle is kind of the smaller square of those.
Yeah.
So it's favorable, but he doesn't have any edge over some of the others that are going to be longer.
Makes
So
sense.
it's just a value.
So
it's
value
like more
play.
of a value thing. Yeah.
And you can't argue with that logic for
Yeah.
sure. And again,
then
it's not like
you'll have the board, and you'll have looks because it's the first leg. So yeah.
And in a race where these horses don't win often, I mean, value when you're talking about horses that are basically even, whether they're evenly good or evenly bad, if you can get value on a horse that's around the same level as some of the others, then why not take it?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move to. You have anybody else you want to talk to here? Are you good to move?
No, I think that kind of got it going.
Let's move to the 7th. We got claiming 17.5. We're going 7.5 furlongs on the turf per 16,000. We got a field of 8 with 1 MTO also eligible. I looked at the weather. I hate talking weather, but I don't think there was anything in the forecast. It looked pretty sunny, so I don't imagine anything will happen with the turf there. This one, we actually have a pretty decent favorite, the 7, All About Me at 8-5. And you are completely tossing the 7. That's why when I was looking at it, I was like, man, am I looking at the right races? Because she's completely tossing this horse and it looks pretty good. So I must be missing something. But we'll talk first about your horse. You have the 4, Dessert First, which is sort of that's a nice theory in my book. So what do you like about this 4 here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as far as the 7, just pretty much
7.
wins. The wins when they get lone trips.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily know if the horse is going to get a lone trip. So that's just, again, as the favorite, maybe there's some others in here that keep that pace honest. In terms of the 4,
yep.
This was just, I wrote up this horse on top, and if people want to go see what I wrote, this is not the most likely winner in the race. But it's going to present.
People always like to hear that from the handicapper.
Well, the most likely winner doesn't always win. So we have to remember, that as well. And because the 7 is going to take so much action, and especially if you like the favorites in leg 1, it's like, where are you going to find some separation in this pick 4 to make it playable? Because if you're spread in each leg, but your spreads all have chalk, what's your edge in terms of play?
Yeah.
Hitting it to hit it is not my style. As far as Dessert First, she's stepping up from the claiming ranks, but in terms of the race par, it's closer to a lateral move. And she has a winning race back on April 27th, and that race puts her right back in the mix. So put her in there. I don't think she's the most likely winner. I think the 7 probably is, or the 2. But there's some questions. I might have, you know what? I think did I do a miss? No, I did a typo in here. That should be, Yeah, sorry. That should be 4-7-2 because I don't think I was against her.
Okay.
Sorry, that's my fault.
Yeah, that's what scared me because I was like, boy, that horse looks really.
Yeah. No, I was
horse looks pretty strong and could be the pace.
Yeah.
All right, I'll make the change.
Yeah,
there.
I'm not against, but I think that there is some other pace in here, and looking at the way that she's run her races and when she's won is been on a lone lead. So
and this horse when when she was back on the turf, she was running in some pretty solid company here. I assume those are much better there than what we're talking about here. And I mean, she
Yeah,
didn't run
exactly.
well, but
Exactly.
she was in with those. So at least there's something behind that. I just, anytime you could see some races on the page, and you pointed out a few of them that can win a race. And again, it's not like the 7 is the favorite, and we'll show the 7 one more time. The 7 is the favorite, but I mean, it's not like the 7 wins all that often. Like you said, gets on the lead, gets the trip. There is some speed to the inside. That was the only thing I kind of liked, was I thought the other speed was inside. So I figured Cohen could maybe make sort of a judgment call. But I don't know if this horse can sit off. This horse has never shown the
Yeah,
ability to sit off and do anything. So he kind of has to
exactly.
go. So if that inside horse goes,
And then the 8 to her outside has speed.
got some speed too. Yeah. Oh, sorry. That
Yeah.
was the 9. Yes, there is some
Yeah.
speed there. Yeah, it's tough when you look at a horse 79, 30, 105. You go, okay, they could have some speed, but I'm like, are they going to? Hopefully, maybe. So you have the one horse I wanted to point out. You have, let's scroll up for a sec, Miss River Rat. I have this horse in second. You have this horse in third. What do you like about this one? This one's sitting at 5-2, second choice. Looks pretty solid, and also looks to be on the upswing. Would you like or not like
Yeah, I
about this
mean,
one on
this is
top?
these two horses are extremely obvious, right?
Yeah.
The 7, All About Me, and then number 2, Miss River Rat. And Miss River Rat has always just been consistent number wise, but really hasn't taken that big step forward number wise. So
Yeah.
I could see why they're dropping in for the claiming tag. And they are going to run at the higher claiming tag. I think we've talked about that on the show before. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit of a positive there, because maybe they're thinking, oh, she won't get claimed. That's too high. So I think both those horses make sense.
I mean, and the best race for Miss River Rat, the best race did come on an off track. So you never know if that's going to move a horse up. It was the only time on an off track. You never know. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I always ask myself the question.
Again, I mean, this is just another one. If when you take the time and you go back and watch all those races, those turf races are insanely good. Her debut on the turf was better than looked. It was a massive gallop out against the flow. She had an excuse in the race at the fairgrounds. And then there's like so many times they tried to run her on the turf and just never had the opportunity.
Yep.
So there's the move to the turf to me is a bigger positive than anything. That's where she started, and she just hasn't had a chance to run there. So that doesn't bother me at all. Obvious horse.
And just quick, because we always talk stats on here, Chris Block, who's been a monster with 30%. You see the 24 out of 40 in the money at this meet. 4 for 30, turf to dirt. Or turf to dirt. I think I typed it wrong. So hopefully I got the stat right. It probably dirt to turf at Hawthorne. Hopefully that stat is right. But again, if you're looking at a low price horse, if you can find anything to knock them down a bit, we'll take a look at it. Although the Block Mojica combination, 35% wins, 68% in the money on the turf at Hawthorne. So it's hard to throw those two out. Anybody else you want to mention? Or are you good on this?
No, I think that's a pretty straightforward race.
Okay, so we'll move to the 7th. We got another claiming 17.5 per 16,000, 7.5 furlongs on the turf. Oh, no. Oh, God, I'm an idiot. I'm reading the same race. I'm like, wow, that sounds pretty familiar to me. I didn't
talked
remember
about these horses.
What the hell's happening? Is it deja vu? We'll go to the 8th race. My apologies. The 8th race, claiming 5. We're going 6 furlongs, purse 12,000. Filly mares 3 and up. And we have a field of 10. And this one, again, we're going back to the nice lukewarm favorites. We got the 4 Heavenly Hash at 3-1. And that's who you're going with. So why don't you talk about Heavenly Hash for us? What do you like about this one?
Yeah, I mean, this is a race that I think I put in 4 horses. But starting with the favorite, I think is very logical. Moves up in today's race shape, was claimed for 5. They ran her at the higher level, second off, back where she can compete. Makes a ton of sense. And the same move comes into play for 5 Style. Style just comes from a little bit further off the pace, but both those horses have intent. They fit at this level. They have the right speed figures, the right connections, the right intent in this spot. So I really don't have a top in this race. I think those ones are both fine. If I'm making a top pick, it would just be depending on the board and who looks the best. But I would also use the one Kitten Rocks, who's going out for Brian Cook, who's been sending out some really live runners. And Kitten Rocks ran against her stablemate last out. She had to go back. She was at the gate.
Yeah, what happened there? I was just reading it, and I was like, boy, you don't see that in the notes very often. I was like, well, that sounds wild.
Yeah, she had to go back to the paddock and get a rider change. It was a bit of a delay that day. So,
Yeah.
And it was coming off the layoff. And again, the connections had, I think she finished, what did she finish in there? Ghost Storm and Girl was the 1-2 favorite in that race. And then Ghost Storm and Girl came back and won on June 8th. Yeah.
Yes.
That was her stablemate. So,
yep. Okay.
Yeah. Might have had those odds wrong, but she was shorter that day, and then Ghost Storm and Girl came back and won. And then Essential Bella ran a winning race at this level back on May 11th. It was a blanket finish at the wire, and that race par is similar to today. So those are the four I'm using in there: 1, 2, 4, 5. No real top, no real bottom.
Yeah, I think I was sort of similar. I did like, Essential Bella to me. I thought the races 3 and 4 back put this horse pretty much in the mix. The last one was in the mud, so maybe, and didn't run poorly by any stretch, but I think 3 and 4 back are pretty solid and put him here. I was trying to think if there was something I wanted to mention on, or to ask you about with Heavenly Hash. Yeah, I that was one I liked too, where I just thought you're getting to your level and you're getting back to where I think you should be running against. And I always like that. This one, I just like this horse. And I had some cool stats here. Centeno and Arnett, 7 for 16 wins, 14 for 16 in the money in dirt sprints at Hawthorne, and then 9 for 20 wins and 18 for 20 in the money just overall in dirt sprints. I just thought when I saw that, I was like, Jesus, that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the price isn't super great, but that combination just always seems to give you a run when you're in the dirt sprint. So again, when I saw that,
so fun. Yeah, it's so funny because it's like we're following the Hawthorne all the time, right? So it's just one of those things you're like, I don't even need to know what the stat is because I just see him win all the freaking time.
You just see it. You're like, yeah, you must know that.
It's like you just
you're
know.
Like, that makes sense. That's, you just see that with your eyes. Yeah, and that's why for me, who doesn't follow it necessarily daily, I'm looking at that going, God, I don't know what's going on there, but that I don't care who you are. You don't see those kind of stats from anybody, any top combinations. I don't care if you're talking Brown Pratt or Irad Pletcher. You generally don't see those kind of things. All right, well, we will move to the final leg. Let's see how we can get paid. Hopefully I actually read the right race this time, race 9.
And I put in the right numbers. We're
stumbling
at the start.
Hey, I was just happy that I was talking about the right races tonight. Like I said, when I saw your picks, I was like, God, did I just handicap the complete wrong 4 in the wrong day? So we got maiden special weight, purse, 32 grand, a mile on the turf. We got a field of 10. One is the also eligible main track only, which we don't expect to happen. And again, another relatively lukewarm favorite, the number 4, Argon, I assume it is pronounced. You are going with the 8, Crossana, who I'm interested to hear about this one because I liked a few in here, and there was a couple that I thought when I watched this race, I was like, Crossana easily looked the best to me over Off the Lamb, and I thought those horses were backing up, and that's why Off the Lamb came back. I don't know if you saw it as someone who's more intimately knowledgeable of those.
I watch all the races, my friend. That I saw it the same way. I thought, they both they both ran a winning type race. That's why I have them 1-2. The visuals from Crossana preferred a little bit more. That was her first start. That didn't look, made that wide close. Those horses were all together at the wire. Now, in terms of Off the Lamb, I had been following her from Oaklawn. Those 2 races at Oaklawn were just kind of sneaky good in the way that you knew this was a horse that wasn't able to show their best.
Yep.
So that race didn't really come out of nowhere. That is who she is. So I used 8 and 6, and I'm not as much interested in the 4, to be honest, in terms of a win contender. I think she's got the early speed. She's just stablemate of the 6, right? So I think she's got the early speed, always backs up, just without. I guess she set some fast paces, so I need to be fair here. But yeah, on the win end, I prefer those other two. She can stick around for a minor share, but I'm 8-6, and then I thought the 7 realistic goal ran good in that common race as well. I thought her trip was kind of sneaky good. So
Yeah.
I don't think she's as top as those other two, but can get in the mix. If I have to pick 3, I'll use her for the third.
Yeah. Yeah. The 4 was a funny one for me because that was purely, I just thought could be a potential speed horse. And that's what I didn't even like. I was with you. I didn't really like the horse. And I'm looking at it going, I feel like it would be better on either synth and sprinting. And now we're going a mile again here. And I was like, I don't love the horse, but I hate losing to the horse that just gets on the lead and wins. And that's where I was. So I probably don't like that pick, and I probably would eventually split. The one I want to ask you about, I sort of like the 9, and it wasn't based on a whole heck of a lot. It just aside from I had some stats. So Goldfine, he was 1 for 1 first time starters. I mean, he doesn't have that many races yet, but he had a first time starter that did win. Cairo Prince, 11% first time starters. And on the dam side, 29% win turf routes, 4 for 6 in the money, first time starters. So I'm looking at it going in a field where I don't love anyone. If I can get a price on a 6-1 first timer out. Did you have any thoughts on this one? I don't know if you've seen the horse
no,
work
I mean
or
the same
anything.
thing. This is no, I read about the 9 and the 1. Both being first-time starters, and even the 2 who actually they did try to run on the turf last year, so there's some intent there. But Chris Block trading the 1 with Mojica, we already talked about that combination earlier on, and then Roar Silence and Mickey Goldfein, who I think was the assistant for Chris Block. I believe.
Really?
So there's that whole
There's
connection there.
Connection there.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't have any fault on either of those. And with Julio Felix being aboard, that could be even the early speed that you were looking for.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's always hard to because it's not like the works showed a ton of speed, so it's hard to know from the outside what the horse is going to do. I don't know if they're going to try and go, but I figured in a race I don't love anybody, there was enough there to point me in that direction. Anybody else here? You think we're good? I can. If not, we can get.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. Yeah, we can show the tickets.
Sure. All right. Well, let me take this off the screen so we can look at our tickets, and I'll read yours off, and then you can talk to us about what your strategy was. So Emily is going with 4 singled, with 1-2-4, with 1-2-4-5.
That's a misprint in there.
That's right.
Sorry, that's completely my fault. I don't know what I was doing. I might have been looking at the horse. Was the horse a 1 in their previous race?
I think so.
That's got me before. So leg 7 should be 2-4-7. Yeah, I mean, basically just kind of theory in this sequence is I don't think there's a lot of favorites that I'm really heavy against in here. So try to be creative in that first leg to at least find some separation on that end. Yeah. Then I'm okay with using the favorites in the second and the third leg, and then extremely skinny with those 2 horses in the last. If it's not one of them, then I would have to spread deeper than I would want to. So this is a reasonable ticket that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and I mean, if you like it, or for anybody wants to follow it, I mean, for $12 only, they could play it. You could play it a few times and try and make the money that way. And why waste the money, as opposed to what I did, which is the complete opposite. But that's because I have no confidence in my picks at Hawthorne. So mine is 3, and I don't know. I couldn't remember if you and Howard have a set limit each time. So I was like, you know what, I don't care.
I think he's like right around 50
right? That's what I thought.
To me, I don't like these rules, and I really won't pay attention to them unless I think they're necessary.
Yeah.
Just kind of my theory in life in terms of having those unjust hierarchies, because you don't want to, especially when you're playing, like setting hurdles for yourself, like if it's a sequence that's going to cost you more than what you're comfortable with, then that's, you need to, like, that's a different thing. But, if I thought this was a sequence that was like, hey, this is I could hit this thing. I could beat these favorites, and I can spread with some horses that are just far, far from the most likely. I'm happy to pay, to make it $100 or 108 ticket.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
And then, and then it's kind of what the sequence is. And then the same thing as far as like 3 horses per race. Well, sometimes I just want to use 1. Sometimes I need to use 7. That's That's how it works.
The one way I look at it is what I hate to do is if I'm like sitting at when we do our regular Thursday pick 5 and we're supposed to be around 100. If I'm sitting at that 108 and I have to cut some horse I don't want to cut just to get under, that just always scares me. Like that's the horse that's going to screw you. You always know in the sequence, I think, which horse is going to screw you. And I'm like, I hate doing that, especially if people are following our picks and betting them. I hate to cut one and have them lose because of that reason. But I don't think I read mine. So mine was 368 with 237 with 459 with 4689, and that is for $54. So if I would advise everyone follow Emily's first, throw mine in as a saver. I think we have a couple long shots in there though that if they come in, that 8 horse that it could get on the lead at about 15 morning line, I think that's the one we would want to sort of blow this sequence up a little bit.
Yeah, you should single that one. Single that horse in the first leg. That's a million times better ticket, right?
That is definitely a better ticket. That's what I probably should have done.
And you could punch it twice.
That's true. That's true. If I single.
Spot.
Yes. And then when it loses, like you said, I could just come back and bang the pick 3. That's the only way to do it. All right. Well, I always hate signing off because that means we're saying goodbye and we're done handicapping. But let me name everybody, make sure I forget. So for my co-host today, Emily Gullickson, who you see on the screen right there, Nick Verdereese making his virgin appearance, Paul Halloran, the old vet, and Jay Priscione from Atlantic 6 Racing and Book of Dano fame. I want to thank everyone. I'm Pete Visco, your host, and myself. Yes, I am Pete Visco. I don't really thank myself too much, but I did do all right. So we didn't go as long. We were joking before, Emily. We were like, man, we got a lot of segments today. The way we talk, we could be going till like 10:30. I think we did pretty well, right under the wire. You did
excellent. Yeah, absolutely.
So for everyone, and thanks to everybody in the chat. And like we always say on here, come back. And you know what we like to do on here? Crush your bets. See you, everybody. Take care.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.